1884 Copeland high-wheel steam cycle. Lucius Copeland was the chief engineer at the flour mill in Phoenix, Arizona. So he ran the steam engines. He also was involved in their brass band because the Copelands were a musical family. You may recognize the name from other musical people. Lucius was also a very keen cyclist, and high-wheel bicycles were the craze of the 1880s. Most of them had the small wheel at the back, and the big wheel at the front were called ordinaries. This one has the small wheel at the front and is called a high-wheel safety. The idea is that instead of falling over the handlebars and bashing your head open by falling forward, you fall backwards and bash your head open instead. However, it was a good idea, and he decided that pedaling uphill was a bit tedious, so he built this steam engine to put on his bicycle primarily to take care of the hills. He claimed that it would do 12 miles per hour for an hour at a time. That's debatable. The engine's a bit small. It has some interesting features. He used a lot of stuff from around the house, or what he could get his hands on. The spokes of these wheels were tapered, and I couldn't figure out why he would do that until I realized he'd used his wife's knitting needles to make them. These are also bowls off soup ladles. Now, one of the most interesting features is this, which took me a long time to figure out until I realized it's a float off an 1880s era toilet. Rest of the bits on the engine, a lot of them were made out of musical instrument parts because he was in charge of fixing the musical instruments for the band. Lucius Copeland formed a partnership with Hezekiah Smith of the Star Bicycle Company. They formed a company called Northrop Manufacturing. They came out with a brochure showing all different sorts of vehicles, including this bicycle, a three-wheeled bicycle, a four-wheeled phaeton designed to carry passengers, like to be used for like a modern taxi. It all came to naught. The whole thing fell apart, didn't go anywhere, but he could be credited as the producer of the first automotive brochure of all time. He was very upset later and suffered from a depression as a result of the fact that he felt that he was the inventor of the motor vehicle and was never recognized as such. Copeland ended up taking his own life in 1931 as a result of depression, and because he felt that no one had recognized him as the true inventor of the motor vehicle. His wife donated the engine to the Phoenix Museum in 1931 because she wasn't using it on her washing machine anymore because she had an electric motor for that now. So it's a very interesting piece. This week we have a really interesting bike to look at. It was built by Edward Joel Pennington. Pennington was quite an American enigma because he was the first person to appear on the streets of the USA with a gasoline-powered motorcycle. And he was also the first to appear in Britain on a gasoline-powered motorcycle, predating the British Holden by about 3 months. Now, Pennington is a bit of a mystery because he didn't get a lot of good press in his day because he was a bit of a shyster and a con man. But I believe Pennington was probably in the same league as Thomas Edison as an inventor. The only problem was Pennington was not a very good businessman, wasn't terribly honest, and didn't really follow through developing his inventions before he went on to the next one. But the motorcycle was quite something because he appeared the first time in Grand Avenue in Milwaukee, where he motored down the street at supposedly 60 miles an hour according to some press reports, 30 miles an hour according to others. Other press people said the thing didn't even start. But regardless of that, there were two boys watching at the time who were 14 years old, named Bill Harley and Arthur Davidson. And it's speculated that they did get some inspiration from Mr. Pennington's invention. Pennington demonstrated his bike in New York. He acquired backing from various people, took a lot of money, and then he just left for England, leaving his American investors holding the bag. He then managed to sell the concept to another con man by the name of Harry Lawson in England for £500,000. And they set up a factory at Motor Mills called Motor Mills, where they made various Pennington vehicles, the motorcycle, he had a four-wheel car, a three-wheel car, various other contraptions, none of which were ever sold commercially. In the end, Pennington sort of disappeared from there as well, and he also had 3 different wives that didn't know about each other, and he went through his fortune and died penniless in 1908, but he was quite an amazing guy, really, and it's quite an amazing bike. I just have to read you just this one little thing. This is a really neat book I have called 10 Years of Motors and Motor Racing by Charles Jarrett, printed in 1906, original copy signed. Said, we had some real fun in Coventry at the time by reason of the claims and performances of the Pennington machine. I must confess that Pennington was one of the most remarkable men I have ever met. Absolutely American, of big build and with a commanding presence, it seemed impossible for any sane person to disbelieve anything he stated. He had in Coventry at the time a number of machines, all built somewhat on cycle lines. One was a very neat-looking motor bicycle, regarding which he produced pictures showing it flying through the air over a river, with the further explanation that the machine was capable of traveling 60 miles an hour and consequently could easily jump over any ordinary obstacle, such as a river. When we hear Superman's expression, faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, I don't think it was Superman that started that. I think it was Pennington. It's going good. She's flying. We got lots of power. 1/4 throttle. We're blasting along here about, 20 miles an hour maybe. You got to look at a lot of stuff here because otherwise you could hurt yourself. This is great up here. I mean, you can see where you're going. You can see all over. I'm probably 10 feet off the ground. At least it feels like it. I think I'm going to have to be careful when I stop this, though. The brakes, whoa, not that great. The Orient was the first motorcycle commercially manufactured in the USA. They used a Dion Bouton engine from France, which was the first practical engine built for motorcycles because it was light enough, much lighter than the earlier internal combustion engines. This particular Orient is 1900 model and is the oldest one we know of to date. Today we're going to look at Oliver Godfrey's 1911 TT winning Indian. By 1911, Indian were really on a roll. They had a dealer network all over the globe, and they capped it off by winning the Isle of Man TT, and that really started things. They came in first, second, and third. The only time an American motorcycle has ever won the Isle of Man TT, and this is Oliver Godfrey's motorcycle, number 26, the winner, and here is his trophy. This really gave Indian a kickstart. By 1913, they had their biggest year ever when they sold 39,000 motorcycles worldwide. They never matched that again. Finally petered out in 1953. This bike is a 2-speed little twin. There was no such cataloged motorcycle. They had to build them specially. They had 2-speed singles, 2-speed big twin, but they needed to use a little twin because they sleeved it down to 580 cc's, which to meet the requirements of the race. It has, therefore, a special frame, has a 2-speed gearbox and these long straight pipes, which was unique to the road racer. The only one we know of like this, and it's a real piece of history.
That's great.
Also, you notice that it has a hand clutch. You just pull the clutch back to engage the gears. Here's your gear shift up forward where Mr. Godfrey could reach it. Gear shift is mounted forward because you were leaning over the bike to ride it, and you could reach up to, normally they were back here on the road bikes. Also, Oliver Godfrey was a pretty tough guy, because it says on this trophy that he averaged 47.63 miles an hour, and that was 6 laps of a course that's 36 miles long, mostly gravel roads, through villages, around corners, over bridges, and in order to maintain that average speed, he would have had to be doing over 80 miles an hour at some points. And a pretty rudimentary machine, pretty uncomfortable. He might have had a flat or two, would have had to fix his own tires. They taped extra inner tubes across the front handlebars when they were riding. This is a 1912 Blackhawk. In 1912, the Blackhawk Motor Company advertised they had hundreds of dealers and thousands of riders worldwide. The real truth is, they probably only built 1 or 2, because this surviving engine has no serial number, and it was the only surviving piece of a Blackhawk that was known. So we were able to find an old brochure showing all the Blackhawk parts, exploded views, all the details. So the entire bike has been built around the only surviving original Blackhawk engine. Now, what makes the Blackhawk significant is that the largest chapter of the AMCA is called the Blackhawk chapter, and they have pictures of this motorcycle and its logo on all their t-shirts, all their letterheads, etc. So the Blackhawk's pretty important to the club. So it's just a project that had to be done. So we did it a couple of years ago, and quite proud of it.